Bright and early here in Dubai on a day that is, of course, bringing focus to a regional split. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Bahrain and the UAE have all cut their diplomatic ties with Qatar, shutting down much of the air, space and sea and land crossing. And it's a dramatic worsening of the long-running spat about Qatar's relationship with Iran. Obviously, it's been building up since some of the tensions over the Muslim Brotherhood a few years earlier. But the latest escalation came fast and it came quickly. Let's cross out immediately to Mohammed Sergey, Bloomberg News, joining us live out of Doha this morning. Mohammed, just give me a sense of what sentiment is like on the ground. Again, the tensions were rising, but what's the latest?
Well, Doha itself, the capital, is pretty quiet and normal and has been for the last couple of weeks as tensions have risen. The move is unexpected. I spoke to people in the government a couple of days ago, and they did not foresee this escalation. To close the land border, which is the only border that Qatar has with Saudi Arabia, and to expel basically or force citizens from all these countries to leave is a major escalation.
Talk to me about the government response here. I mean, ultimately, we saw attempts to try to, quote-unquote, patch things up, and the Kuwaiti Emir got involved. We heard from a lot of market participants that they were confident that this would be resolved fairly quickly. What went wrong here?
Well, it's obvious that the talks didn't go the way they wanted to. The Qatar Emir visited Kuwait last week, and there was no statement after that meeting that had any kind of real information inside. And the Saudis, in their statement today this morning, they've mentioned that they've been at odds with Qatar since 1995, and that is when the current emir's father had the coup against the grandfather emir. So this has been something simmering for a very long time, and it goes further than I believe just the stance against Iran. Many analysts talk about how the region is split now between countries that support political Islam in a sense, which includes the Muslim Brotherhood, but can also go into more violent groups like Hamas and perhaps rebels in Syria of Islamic bent. Whereas Saudi Arabia, the UAE want to bring back the status quo with Egypt. That's kind of where the split lies.
Mohammed, this, as you say, must have been brewing for a very long time, because we have heard from Qatari officials saying that statement released on their website criticizing some of the moves to isolate Iran, that was actually the work of hackers. So why are these countries still so upset with Qatar? Well,
that's exactly what the reason. The alleged hack, which attributed comments to the emir. Some of them about Iran were actually quite mild. Qatar's stance on Iran differs a little bit from the rest of the GCC because they do share the largest natural gas field in the world. In Iran, it's called South Pars, and in Qatar, it's called the North Field. And they have to have daily contacts just in terms of extracting natural gas from that field. So they can't have this complete opposition to them. But the main crux of it is Muslim Brotherhood and Al Jazeera television. Al Jazeera TV has been, a thorn in the side of much of the GCC for a long time. Just days after the Trump visit and the show of unity in Riyadh, there was a protest in Bahrain, and Al Jazeera kind of broke with the decorum that has been set of not covering violent protests in the region, and that's what happened there.